Okay, hello everyone. Thanks for joining us. Before we will start, because it's after lunch, let's try to do something that will wake everyone up. Take your right leg. Don't be shy. Take your right leg and do clockwise circles. Don't stop. Do clockwise circle. Don't be shy. Nobody sees that. And don't stop. Now we will add something. Don't stop with the clockwise circles. Now take your hand and draw the figure 6 in the air 6 times. Oh, it's a little bit hard, right? No, not synchronized as we thought. So you can stop it. Thanks for participating. That's what usually happens when you have a great application, a great software, and you say, let's add an I. What can go wrong? So my name is Oded. I'm the co-founder of EverSQL, the database optimization platform. We got acquired by Aiven, and now I'm leading the Aiven engineering side for database optimization. And we will try to make this conversation very practical, very interesting for you, so you can get some value from it. So before we start, Rebecka and Heikki, would you like to present yourself, Rebecka?
Yeah, of course. Hi, I'm Rebecka. I currently work at Modal, but I guess I'll start with a little bit of more background on who I am. I started out as a machine learning engineer. I did machine learning before it was cool, mostly in fintech. Ended up leading machine learning and data teams at iSettle and then later Tink in Stockholm. That's where I'm based. And then founded Twirl about 3 years ago, a data orchestration startup. So yeah, very focused on sort of data pipelining for a bunch of different data and ML use cases. And we got acquired by Modal earlier this year. So now I work on AI infra at Modal. I don't know if people are familiar with what Modal is. We basically offer serverless GPUs. As well as products for executing AI-generated code in sort of a safe environment. So AI infra is what I work on today.
Thank you, Rebecka. Heikki?
Hi, my name is Heikki Linnakangas. I'm a software engineer. I've been working on the open source Postgres project for the past 20 years now for different companies. In 2021, we founded a company called Neon, and the way it happened is that our CEO, co-founder, reached out to me and said, hey, would you like to found a company with me? And I said yes. I didn't know what I was getting into, but it's been a fun ride, and here we are.
So you got acquired by Databricks.
Yes, this summer we got acquired by Databricks, so now I'm a full-time Databricks employee.
That's good. So modest founders we have here. So let's start with some practical thing. Heikki, you are one of the biggest contributors for Postgres, the open source, and thank you for that. Now Postgres is one of the most popular databases. Heikki, if I'm a builder, like the people here, and I want to build my AI startup, should I use Postgres?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Postgres gives a good foundation for any application. Like AI applications are no different in that sense. Like any application needs a database these days, including AI applications. So from the database point of view, like an AI app is just an app. It's nothing special. The AI apps tend, the AI part is special, but the way you access the database and deal with data is not that different.
Yeah, that's interesting. And both of you built a serverless technology in your startup. In these days where AI is so popular, why serverless is so important, Rebecka?
Yeah, so I think there's a few reasons. Maybe the sort of first one that's relevant in sort of the area I work is there's a huge GPU shortage. I think no one has missed that. It's very hard to access GPUs. If you go to your sort of main cloud provider and ask for GPUs, it's very likely they'll say, sorry, we're out. Like you have to wait, or we can't give you any, or you have to get into this like big reservation to make sure that you have access. So I think the serverless model is sort of particularly well suited for that when there is a shortage of resources, because you can basically pool resources with other users and kind of when I'm using my GPUs, someone else can't, but then, the next minute when I'm done and my workload goes down, then someone else can use those same GPUs. So it's sort of well suited for that, a market with that type of dynamics. And the other thing I think is like AI workloads tend to be very bursty, and that's also a good fit for serverless workloads. Like you rarely have sort of a steady state type application, and this is regardless of whether you're doing like training. I mean, you're probably not going to train, all the time at constant speed, and also for inference, like they are very bursty. So it's like it's a model that makes sense for AI type workloads because the serverless model kind of allows you to basically scale up when you need to, and then scale down and like not pay for things you're not using.
Heikki, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm seeing exactly the same things. If you're using AI, you're using some kind of an AI service for your language model. And once you're in that world already, you're using a service like that, then the serverless architecture makes a lot of sense. And it's kind of natural to do that for the rest of the application as well. And the burst workload also, we're seeing that with databases. One aspect of that is that if you're using these AI builders to build your application, then those tend to create a very bursty workload when you're during development. You don't want to have your database running all the time. It makes sense for it to be serverless, and you only pay for it when while you're iterating, while you're developing, and you don't need to pay for it while you're not using it.
One of the things, I don't know if you had happened, I met here so many startups, and it's always very similar. We introduce it to each other, and then I ask, okay, what's your startup is about? And they say, oh, we do AI for something, and continue with that. So many startups are building AI product, and there are this theme of AI native team. You have it in Lovable, you have it in Databricks, in Aiven, and Spotify, and many others. What do you think when hiring or when thinking about an AI native team? What do you think is different from the previous word of building a startup, Heikki?
So in terms of hiring, you're probably looking at younger people who are used and grew up with those tools. I would say it probably helps if you also understand the fundamentals, though, like what is behind the scenes. What we're seeing is that this AI application, one very interesting use case we are seeing actually now after the acquisition as part of Databricks, for databases in particular, is that people already have their data in data lake, and they want to serve that as part of an AI application. So they're using Postgres for that, and all of the big first users of the product within the Databricks has been like that. You have the data, you export it, or you have a pipeline, you serve that as part of the AI model, you put that in the AI model's context, and you serve that.
Rebecka, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so we work a lot with various sort of AI startups, scale-ups. I think, I do think the phrase is a little bit washed out. So I think it depends on sort of what we're talking about. But if we're talking about companies where the core product is an AI product, that's sort of the main business, then obviously even within that segment, there's a lot of variation. But many of those companies, they're building their own models, or they are at least fine-tuning models, as opposed to bigger companies that I think to a larger extent, in my experience, are using the APIs. So they're directly just querying OpenAI or Anthropic or whatever. And I think this comes partially from sort of product reasons. Basically, these AI startups are often very focused on one vertical or one very narrow use case, meaning they need a model that's adapted to that, and they sort of have the scale to support building their own models or fine-tuning models. But I think it also comes from sort of wanting to build a moat. So I mean, it's a little bit two-sided. But that's one thing I would say is different about those sort of AI native startups, and what they do is the sort of model choices, if I compare that to more enterprisey use cases and AI efforts that happen at larger companies.
But let's try to be even more practical. Those AI native teams, the decision that they need to make on infrastructure, what do you see out there? The mistakes or the thing that they are doing when they are choosing the infrastructure for their AI native startups? Heikki?
Well, one thing I'm definitely seeing is that people who are using these AI builder tools, they will tend to gravitate to whatever they get from that platform. So ideally you can use the same platform to deploy, develop, and do the whole life cycle. Especially if you don't have traditional engineers or existing infrastructure. If you're a startup starting from scratch, that probably applies to you. So people tend to gravitate to whatever the defaults are that you get, which makes sense.
Yeah, I think my perspective is maybe a little bit different because I encounter less of those use cases. But what I see a lot of is basically, I think all of these AI startups are trying to move very, very fast, and that makes sense. I think that's what you should do if you're an AI startup these days. But the moving fast, I guess this comes back to kind of the serverless model. Basically, they want to minimize the amount of time they spend on infrastructure. That I think is a common theme. That's very rarely the differentiator. I mean, for some companies it is. It's possible to have sort of scale as your differentiator or the infra, but it's quite rare among these startups. They want to focus either on the model side. Sometimes not even that. Sometimes they want to use sort of off the shelf, like vanilla open source models. But quite often they are interested in like iterating on the model or some more like application layer unique value, but very rarely on the infrastructure. So that I think is also a common theme. Whereas like when I talk to bigger companies, usually their sort of trade-off curve is a little bit different. So they basically optimize for control to a large extent, which I think is sort of the thing that you would miss out on in this like serverless world. And that tends to be more important for bigger companies, and they're sort of willing to put in like the man hours to build out infrastructure on their own to a larger extent.
You mentioned open source. I'm curious, anyone in the audience is building an open source product? Okay. Anyone is using open source? So what do you think about open source in the era of AI? Like will we have open source? Should I invest in open source? What are your thoughts, maybe Heikki, as an open source guru?
I mean, based on the fact that no one raised their hand, I'm actually a little worried. Like, someone needs to build this stuff. The role of open source is, in general, like not just AI, but it also applies to AI, is to kind of set the baseline. Like that is when something is open source and widely available as open source, that means that anyone can use it. You don't need to ask for permission. You don't need to care about the license, or it's very easy to apply the license to you. So that makes it easy, and that sets the baseline for everyone else. Like a lot of proprietary companies are like building good stuff and kind of pushing the envelope. But when there's an open source implementation of something available, that's what people will use by default, unless there's a reason to choose something else. So I think open source has like we've seen this with operating systems, databases, Postgres. Like open source sets the baseline and raises the bar for everyone else. So I'm hoping that someone will get excited and build something to make that future true.
Rebecka?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great observation. I think you're absolutely right. But I also feel like we're not quite seeing that yet on like the AI model side. And I think we're getting there. I think like in general, a lot of people underestimate how good the open models are. I should say like, you know, it's complicated. Like I shouldn't like lump together, you know, open source, open weights and all this. But I think for the purpose of this conversation, let's just keep things simple. I think we're not quite there. I think a lot of people default to the proprietary models. And I think a lot of people assume they're better. And they are better in some ways. But in like many different modalities, the open source ones are catching up like really, really quickly. Like for transcription, for example, so like audio transcription, the open source models are like better than many of the proprietary ones at this point. And I think people don't quite realize how quickly this is happening, but I would say we're definitely not at the stage that you're describing yet of like open source being kind of the foundation or the standard, but I think we're going there quite quickly.
I will tell you a secret. When we hired at Aiven and before in EverSQL, if a candidate contribute to an open source, and we saw that during the interview process, that's a big, big bonus. Because first, it means that he has the skill, and second, it means that he understands the usage of open source. So just sharing. And I think it's true for many employers.
Yeah, definitely true for us as well. Like I was never good at interviewing, but if someone has contributed to open source, you can look at what they have actually done. What do the discussions look like on their PRs? You can see it for yourself, and that makes it a lot easier for sure.
Let's shift gears. The reason that most of your companies and EverSQL got so successful is because we focused on the developer experience, develop first. We build for developers. These days, many of the source code are built by AI. What does it mean, developer experience these days, in your opinion? Rebecka?
Yeah, this is a topic I've thought a lot about recently. We think a lot about it at Modal because Modal is very, like, our sort of, one of our big differentiators is developer experience. We care a lot about that. We have actually like several contributors to some large open source projects, and like the creators of projects like Luigi and Seaborn, and contributors to scikit-learn like on the team. So it's really something that a lot of people care about, and we've been like optimizing for developer experience for many years. And we've recently been thinking a lot about what that means in like a sort of future or even like current state where agents write a lot of code. I've recently written a blog post about this that I think will come out soon, but I can, I guess, reiterate the main point. So our main conclusion from like looking at this and experimenting a lot is optimizing for like an agent developer experience turns out to be very, very similar to optimizing for a human developer experience. And that's because like our primary way that we optimize for human developer experience is to like enable fast feedback loops. Like our experience is that that's what people care about. That's when developers are happy, when you can like make a change and very quickly see if it worked and get like useful feedback that allows you to immediately change something and then kind of go back and iterate fast, basically. And I think anyone who has used, you know, a sort of a coding agent recently will know that that's exactly what they do. They also iterate. It's also this like feedback loop. And basically, the better you can let an agent iterate on its own without getting stuck or requiring human intervention, the better it's going to work. Meaning you're sort of optimizing for the same thing. That's been like our big realization. And then there's like a few things that we, as like, you know, builders of this product can do to optimize for that. So there's like a few themes. Like for example, we think error messages are incredibly important. That's a way to get both humans and agents unstuck if you don't just error out, but try to be very specific about what went wrong and ideally also suggest how to fix it. That helps humans, it helps agents. Another example is like you want to basically have all functionality available programmatically. That's something like humans get annoyed if they have to go click in a UI and, you know, click a button. For agents, that can sometimes get them completely stuck. Like it's basically just much harder for them. So that's another thing we've sort of concluded is we want to have basically all functionality in the product available programmatically. And again, that helps both humans and agents. And yeah, there's a bunch of other like themes as well. But the overall conclusion has been that humans and agents tend to kind of benefit from the same types of efforts on our side.
Heikki?
Yeah, exactly the same experiences from our side. Like when we started to build Neon, we were not thinking about AI and trying to build it for AI. We were building it for humans, human developers, and we wanted to make that human developer experience as nice as possible. Like make it as simple as possible to create a database, make it start up quickly, and like keep the interfaces very simple, keep that simple. And it turns out that AI agents like those same properties. Like they also want simple interfaces. They also want it to happen quickly. You know, they parse the same documentation as humans do if it's well written. So yeah, I totally agree. By optimizing for humans, it turns out that now currently like 80% of the databases are actually created by AI agents. So one interesting feature we also have is this branching, like database branching. The AI agents tend to like that as well, and because it allows you to iterate and go back and forth. So that's been useful. But yeah, mostly it is about making it as easy as possible for humans. AI agents are kind of uncannily human-like. They make same kinds of mistakes. They make, you know, they read the documentation in an uncannily similar way. And one experience we had trying to use our product with an AI agent, we found out that the AI agent was hallucinating in an API that didn't exist. And we were like, huh, that really should exist, like, you know. And that's why one way to develop your use AI to make your product better, both for humans and AI agents, is by trying to use it and see what they think you should have and what is currently missing, and then implement that.
At EverSQL, we were obsessed on the funnel. We were bootstrapped, so we had like X amount of developer registering every day and then converted to paid customers. I wonder when we will have AI agents with a credit card doing the purchase automatically. That's going to be an interesting start. We have a few more minutes. I will open the stage for questions. Any questions from the audience? If not, I will ask my own question. As a founders, a very busy and successful founders, what is your AI productivity personal secret? What is the one thing that you added to your life, business-wise or personal-wise with AI that makes you be 10x better? Rebecka.
I don't think I've found anything yet that makes me 10x better. So I don't know if I have any like specific tips to share. Like one thing I find very useful is like generating simple code snippets to use as examples. I send them like examples that I share with like users or put in blog posts or whatever. Like that type of code generation I find useful. That's just one example.
I also use very little AI. I do like one workflow I have found that works is to ask an AI agent to fill in the to-dos in my code for me. but I've seen my colleagues use Cursor and Cloud, and like they are amazing. I just haven't gotten into that yet, but that is the future. I do have a funky setup on my laptop, so I run a local model. So I do this locally from Emacs, and like I would encourage everyone to try that. Try to run these models locally, see what works, and you'll get it's not going to beat these, great models you can have online, but it gives you a feeling of what is today possible and what is actually, how much computing is actually happening in these data centers when you're running those models. It gives you a feeling for, you can hear your CPU fan spin up, and like you can see the speed at what it's working. That I recommend that to everyone.
You mean like a local llama?
Yeah, or llama, exactly.
I will share mine. I'm a little bit more of a business ex-engineer, so my tip is I speak with ChatGPT quite often when driving, and ask him like all my business theory, like try to tackle it and be devil advocate, etc. And also, as a bootstrap mindset, every time I buy a subscription of a software, I ask ChatGPT, do you have a discount coupon that you can find that works? And you will be surprised how many it gives you. So again, just an idea. Heikki, Rebecka, thank you so much, and well done on your success, and thank you, everyone.